Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the March 2026 edition of the Amherst Town Planning Board. Can we start with roll call, please?
Shamil,
Here.
Gill,
Here.
Hogan,
Present.
Khan, O'Rourke,
Here.
Henderson, here, Raphael.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, a few things to go over before we start. We have 3 hearings on the docket for today. The planning board, the members up here are volunteers appointed by the town board. We have final decision-making authority on site plans and subdivisions. We are advisory only on rezonings, comprehensive plan amendments, things of that nature. Those go to our recommendation. If we do anything, it goes to the town board. They're the elected officials who make the final decision on that. Some procedures on this. The petitioner will go first on any of the issues. They'll present to the board. We'll ask that person questions and talk with the petitioner. And then we'll ask if anyone from the public has anything to indicate. Now, the first person who stands up will be the community spokesperson. So whoever that is, make sure you're the one who gets up there first. Make sure that you give us your name and your address and sign in as well. Any questions that you have, please direct them to the board rather than to the individual speakers. We will then have the petitioner address any and all concerns and questions. Petitioner will come back up and personally respond to every one of those. There's a laser pointer up at the podium. If you wish to use that, please use the screen on my right, your left. In terms of time limits, the petitioner will have 15 minutes with which to present. The community spokesperson, who goes first, will have 15 minutes as well. Any individual speakers after the community spokesperson will have 3 minutes each, and we'll time everybody here, and we'll let you know when if you run out of time on this. And again, make sure we give you your name and address and sign in at the podium. And finally, if in the unlikely event there's an emergency of some sort, I'd ask everybody to go back out the doors over to your right and out the back. Don't come back here on this. All right. Starting off then with issue number 1 here.
Want to do the minutes first? Or?
You know what? Yeah, we would like to do the minutes for I always forget. All right. Has everybody had a chance to look over and review the minutes of the February 19th, 2026 meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve.
I'll second
Brittany,
it.
second. John, roll call, please.
Shamil.
Yes.
Gill. Hogan. Yes. O'Rourke,
Yes.
Henderson. Yes.
Passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Okay. All right, moving on to number 1 here. This is 3238 Millersport Highway.
Good evening. Jake Metzger with Metzger Engineering at 8245 Sheridan Drive in Williamsville, New York. The proposed project is located, as you said, at 3230 through 3278 Millersport Highway. It's located on the west side of Millersport, and it's in between Miller Road and North French Road. The project comprises approximately 2.5 acres, and that is 3 separate parcels, which will be combined into one. It is zoned MFR 4A. That was recently rezoned last year after a recommendation from the planning board and a public hearing and ultimate rezoning by the town board by unanimous decision. That happened in June of last year. The existing conditions of this project, if you could go back 1 slide, sorry, Scott. The existing conditions, as I said, there are 3 parcels, 1, 2, 3. The 2 southern parcels have 2 single-family homes on them, and the north parcel here is known as the Emily's Garden Apartments. They have 2 8-unit buildings. Give you a lay of the land. To the north, there are existing apartments up here. Along the west side, there's single-family homes. Single-family homes to the east, as well as vacant land. And then to the south, there's a mix of commercial businesses and some single-family homes. Next, please. Project description. What they're proposing is to remove the 2 single-family homes on the southern parcels, and they will then construct a 3-story, 9-unit apartment building, along with parking for the tenants. So the building there in question that I described is in yellow, parking along the east side and the south side of the building for the tenants. I just want to point out that the project, as it's presented, is in full compliance with the code. There are no variances that are required for this project. And if you remember, we did present this project back in January of this year. At that time, we were still working through department comments and outside agency comments, fire, engineering, New York State DOT. Since that time, we've addressed all the concerns, comments from those departments. We've made some adjustments to the plan. We've moved the stormwater retention out of the easement, which was not acceptable to the engineering. We moved that to the south. But most importantly, the DOT has allowed us to maintain and keep what we were proposing is the emergency exit. We want to point out that's only for emergency vehicles. It will be gated. It will be locked. The DOT doesn't want to create more conflict points along Millersport. So with this proposal, we're actually going from 3 separate curb cuts, 2 for the houses and 1 for the apartments, down to 1. That will be a full-time entrance. The other entrance will only be in the case of an emergency. If an emergency vehicle needs to get in there, they will have access via a Knox box to open the gate and then drive out of the site. And there you see the elevations from the architect, similar, typical residential apartment building look. That's all I had for you this evening. I can answer any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you, sir. John, any questions?
No.
Brittany?
None.
Harper?
No questions.
Mike?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there anybody here from the general public that has any questions or concerns for Mr. Metzger? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing. Thank you. Okay, next item, 1540, 1542 Maple Road, Miller Fillmore Suburban Hospital. This is a request for relief of conditions imposed as a part of a major site plan approval.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for your time. I'm Ryan McCarthy of Hopkins, Sorgi and McCarthy. We are the attorneys for the project applicants, Kaleida Health, and I'm joined by David DeBacco with Kaleida and also by project engineer Chris Winkler. And we are here for seeking relief from conditions of the major site plan for a proposed Millard Fillmore Suburban Hospital that were put into place in 2006. We're asking that the planning board not issue a decision this evening, and we can take this opportunity to discuss the application and answer any questions you may have. Can we pull up the first slide we submitted? There we go. Thank you. Okay. Actually, go to the next slide. Just a little history here. Obviously, we're all aware Millard Fillmore has been in its location since 1974, providing a 265-bed facility with special care in cardiology, urology, GI, orthopedics, oncology, and a number of other key health areas, and has been a major economic driver for the community in that time. Next slide, please. Here we have an overview of the project site at 1540 to 1542 Maple. And you'll see that the zoning is currently Community Facilities District. Next slide, please. Here's an aerial of the project site. You'll see that currently existing parking is 1,010 spaces. And I would note, if you see this structure up here to the north, That building is currently vacant except for 3 part-time employees, so essentially vacant at this time. Next slide, please. Here you'll see the existing conditions at the site. You'll see at the bottom, highlighted in yellow, a current existing driveway connection to Bassett Road, which is chained off and used only for non-health emergency vehicles. And you'll see here potential future parking expansion that has been revised to 106 spaces. Next slide, please. Okay. And here you see the conditions of the previous site plan approval. It was approved for the 153,000 square foot hospital expansion, and there were 9 conditions to that approval. And 2 of those in particular are the focus of our discussion today. The sponsor is seeking relief from the site plan conditions as imposed by the planning board on its approval on January 19th, 2006, in connection with elimination of off-site parking on St. Gregory's Church property and installation of a controlled gate for employees only, which is going to be limited in number to access the project site from Bassett Road, where currently a number of employees are traveling presently, and installation of the sidewalk recommended by the ATSB on February 4th, 2026. The 2 relevant conditions imposed that we're discussing are number 5, that the existing chain gate at the Bassett Road driveway be shown on plans submitted for approval upon completion of construction. Access to Bassett Road shall be limited to its current use for non-medical emergencies, and that the approved plan includes a 218 off-site parking spaces leased at the adjacent St. Gregory the Great Roman Catholic Church property. Next slide, please. All right, and here you see on the project site, these areas in green are the previously existing parking on the St. Gregory's Church property, which are no longer available. The applicant had previously leased those, and vehicular access to those parking areas were by both Bassett Road and St. Gregory's Court. Okay, and what we're looking to do, so as I mentioned, here and here, those parking areas are no longer available, but previously employees were accessing those parking spaces by both existing routes here. And I'm going to turn it over to project engineer Chris Winkler to explain a little bit more about that.
Next slide, please. And so we did perform a traffic impact study on January 13th, 2026. And the scope of the study was provided to us by Chris Schriegel, the town's traffic safety coordinator. He provided the study area that he was concerned with. The study area consists of Bassett Road and also the intersections of Hopkins Road, Bassett, and Red Oak Drive. The count data in the study period is the morning peak commute, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and then the evening commute also. We also looked at level service impacts. We compared the existing and then the full build-out year, which is 2027. And we also evaluated potential impacts along Bassett Road. Next slide. Just an overview of the description of the roadways. There's Hopkins Road, which is a county road. It has a posted speed limit of 35 miles per hour. It has 12-foot lane widths and 5 to 7 foot paved shoulders. New York State DOT provided data, gives an annual daily traffic of 14,059 vehicles per day based on, that's 2023 data. both Bassett Road and Red Oak Drive are also considered they're minor collectors, and the estimated annual daily traffic for that was 370 vehicles per day. There's no striped shoulders on those roads. There's a 16-foot lane width on Bassett and a 14-foot lane width on Red Oak. Next slide. So the level of service determination in the traffic study, it has a 225 existing condition, and then the build year is selected as 2027. There is no level of service changes determined for the area of study. There was a very slight 1 and 2 second delays for two of the movements, the Red Oak Drive eastbound and Bassett Road, so very minor impact over the 2-year growth period. Next slide. And this summarizes the conclusions of the study. Under the build condition, the intersection can remain unsignalized. It has stop control. It's free flow on Hopkins, and it has stop control on the side streets, and it continues to function at acceptable levels of service. All movements operate at levels of service D or better at the AM peak, and then level of service C or better during the PM peak. The study did use a conservative growth rate of 1% annual growth. It's important to note that all the employees previously using the St. Gregory's Church parking lot that use Bassett Road, we're anticipating they will continue to use Bassett Road with the relocated driveway entrance. Also, the study noted that there is a left turn lane warrant that is warranted based on the existing traffic condition for the southbound approach at Hopkins Road on that intersection. Also noted there was no crashes reported in the intersection for over the last 3 years, and no additional trips are planned to be put onto the intersection or Bassett Road. The 2 recommendations included in the study: maintain those proposed access control measures. We're going to have the recommendation to have an actuated employee entrance gate that is limited to allow employees only to use that Bassett Road exit, and no additional roadway improvements are required beyond. There's some slight paving width where we put the gate to have 2 11-foot lanes to get by the gate. Next slide. So there was a site plan review for the drawings that were submitted to the Traffic Safety Board. There is recommendations that were provided for that. One of the recommendations was that we would have to limit the staff to 170 employees that could use the gate from Bassett. The other review comments was to include employee-only signage for those employees entering from Bassett, and then also on the other side, people exiting the facility. And then yes, the third condition is there is a proposed sidewalk connection to have sidewalk go from Bassett Road and would go south of the existing building there and then connect into the existing sidewalks there. So that was the third condition of that review. Next slide. And this shows the area of that existing building, and a couple things highlighted here, called out. You can see the sidewalk connection, which runs on the bottom of that, which is the east side of the building, and then we'll wrap around the south side of the building to existing pedestrian connection there. The bottom, it shows the location there of where the employee entrance gate would be, and which would be a controlled barrier arm style gate for employees only. Also, the requested signage is located there at Bassett, and then also for cars exiting the facility. Next slide. And this better shows that sidewalk connection that we had submitted. We would have to relocate a light pole to do that sidewalk connection, so pedestrians could come from Bassett and then connect up to the existing pedestrian connection. And next slide. And this is a better zoomed in of the barrier arm gate. It has a barrier arm gate for vehicles exiting, and then another gate for those entering there. 2 11-foot lanes, slight widening there to accommodate traffic entering and exiting, and it would be limited to 170 employees daily, which was a condition from the traffic review. Next slide, and this is just shows it's a barrier arm gate. It will be on a raised concrete median. It'll be 6 inches high, and this again will be limited to 170 employees to a day. Next slide. And this just shows what the sign was. One of the emphases from the Traffic Safety Board review is to include the sign postings on the property. There is an existing light pole at Bassett, and it could be mounted there, and then we would have to put in a new post and sign for employees exiting the facility, and it would be an employee entrance only. Next slide. We did also prepare a parking study for the project, and it was recently prepared in March. So a few summary of the study. The employees that park, it's approximately 160 to 175 employees that previously utilized the St. Gregory's property. We will assume, we are expecting that the employees that utilize the St. Greg's property will also, that utilize Bassett will also continue to utilize Bassett when they exit on the Bassett Road. From the count data that we have of the parking area, there's 1,010 parking spaces. In the potential event that there was a parking expansion, it would increase to 1,116 spaces. We are requesting to modify the site plan condition to allow employees only utilize the proposed controlled access gate to the existing driveway in Bassett Road. And we think that also opening up that chain gate there will also help the parking situation, because currently on the northern part of the site near that building, that's the most underutilized parking spot of the entire site. And so that will help us fill in that parking area. We're proposing the following site plan condition. If the existing building there, it's a 27,146 square foot. If it's ever reoccupied in the future, as we said, there's only 3 employees there now. The project sponsors shall be required to submit an updated alternative parking plan for review and approval by the zoning enforcement officer prior to such reoccupying that building. Next slide. And then just more findings of the parking study. Based on the code, there was a total of 1,070. This includes number of beds and the square footage of the building. We've performed a traffic study, and we determined that it's 93% utilized currently, the parking spots. We looked at parking at the peak time between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. In the potential future expansion, the lot would only be 84% utilized. And this is, again, mostly from the north area.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. John, any questions for the presenters?
I happened to be on the planning board in '06 when this was first brought to us, and there was a lot of discussion about about number 5. That came across almost as a, okay, we'll do this as a compromise. And because we actually talked about other alternatives, and should there be a parking garage out front, other things that were just deemed non-feasible. But to come back now with, that was a condition of an approval of the expansion, which was needed and has been a benefit, but to take that away, it is putting us in a position that would seem difficult, because if you told me that you would give me a Hershey's Kiss if I said hello, then I didn't get the Hershey's Kiss, and I might have, excuse my analogies, not a very good one, but I guess I'm questioning the justification for coming and asking for what at the time seemed to be one of the prime conditions that was given in return for the opportunity to go through with the expansion.
I think much of the need for this access here is due to the bringing the parking from St. Gregory's site on site and the need to, because of that, maximize the use of the parking on the site, which currently has been heavily focused on the south end of the property. So they're trying to spread out the usage of the, there is a sufficient existing parking there as that shows, but it would be better utilized with that access. And the existing traffic that was previously going down Bassett to those two off-site parking areas would just simply be directed more directly to the site. But I think it's important, especially to keep in mind that this would be for a limited number of employees, wouldn't exceed 170, and that would be spread over 3 shifts. So you're talking less than 170 for the day, spread out. So it's not going to be, hundreds and hundreds of employees all at once backing up down the road. It's reduced traffic, it's spread out, and it's necessitated by that bringing it on site and needing to make a more efficient use of the existing parking.
All right, well, that addresses my question. Thank you.
Good, John?
Yep, I'm done.
Brittany, any questions?
Neither of you two were here in 2006, though, when this project was originally presented, correct? And then there's 1,800 employees that work from that site at any given point, part-time, full-time, what have you?
Yes, Dave DeBacco, Chief Operating Officer for the hospital. No, the 1,800 is in total, so that's full-time, part-time, and per diem employees, and so it is split across multiple shifts over 7 days, 24/7. So no, there's never 1,800 all at one time.
And you talk about a limitation of 170, how would you impose that limitation on 1,800 employees?
What we would do is we would come up with criteria for the 170, and then we would ask employees to apply for it, and then we would grant it on an application basis, somewhat TBD based on the outcome of this.
Those are all the questions I had.
Harv, any questions?
I'll just follow up on Ms. Penworthy's, to limit it to 170 employees, would they be given like a garage door opener or whatever, which will operate the arm for they can enter?
So the arm that we're purchasing or would purchase under the scenario actually has a reader on it. And so it would be very similar to, you've seen condos or other places where they'd have a sticker with a barcode, and so they would just drive through. So we don't want to create lines or whatnot. So it would be drive through based on a barcode and a reader, and they go out. Access would be restricted both ways, which was a requirement from traffic. And so the barcode would also release them out towards Bassett Road.
So that barcode is fixed to the vehicle.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question or two. So regarding the leased lot, in your contention that it was 160 to 175 employees on average that utilize it, and now you're not leasing it anymore, so thus the need for the new lot, and you're saying you would badge 170 employees, so it's kind of a net zero difference traffic flow, sounds like. But do you happen to know, I don't really necessarily need to know why you're not leasing it anymore, but is that lot you used to lease going to be used with traffic that we're not taking into account in this study? Like, you're not leasing that lot anymore. Is it because St. Greg's needed it and there will be traffic in that lot now on top of the 170 that would be for your new lot?
So as far, I don't know what St. Greg's would be utilizing the lot for. We had a lease with St. Greg's that was really 5-year leases that just kind of kept getting renewed through the years. This last lease, for business reasons and other reasons, we did not renew the lease. What's different from 2006 is that the 1542 building, which is the building in the back, was a functioning medical office building with physicians and patients and whatnot. Now it is essentially a vacant building, which is actually gutted, largely gutted. There may be future projects for 1542, and if that ever were to happen, obviously, as we've indicated in our proposal and in our presentation, we would have to come back to this board and obviously do some additional parking expansions. Currently, there are no plans, however, to put that building back in service. So that left us with really a vacant parking lot. And so really what we tried to do was closely match, the lease spaces. And by the way, we were leasing 180 spaces from St. Greg's. I know maybe initially they leased 218. I wasn't here then, I don't know. But the most recent leases were only 180. That's a huge difference, but just something to note. In any case, we would, those employees are now, and like many of us, are parking in the 1542 lot. Because that lot was, largely underutilized recently, and since that facility hadn't been active or had a medical office component any longer. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Sure.
I have some questions. So could we back up to the slide that shows where the access points were previously? I think they went by it. Back up two more. There you go. Okay, I have a bunch of questions I wasn't completely clear about, and it's kind of following up on what Mike just said. Of previously, people you've indicated were utilizing Bassett Road to access the church areas that you were leasing, and those are the areas in the light green, right? Okay, now the access point to those, just so I'm clear, was that off of Bassett Road, or is that around the corner onto Young's, wherever it is?
Yeah, so really great question. And so those lots exit out onto what they call St. Greg's Way.
Right.
And St. Greg's Way, if you make a left out of those parking areas there that are shaded in green on St. Greg's Way, it turns right into Bassett Road. And there's no, obviously there's not even a stop sign, I don't think. It just kind of turns into it.
Now, the lots, there's two of them right here. The lot that appears to be closer to Maple Road, do we have any evidence that that is utilized in the way we just described? Because that seems pretty close to Maple Road.
Sure, I understand the question.
Well, the indication is that people may utilize Bassett Road to get to the St. Gregory's Road to get to those two parking lots. Okay? What I'm not understanding is why they're taking that way to get to the one that is seems very close to Maple Road.
Yeah, I guess I'm not following it.
If I wanted to get to the southernmost lot that you guys were leasing,
yeah,
wouldn't I go from Maple Road to get there? It seems a lot quicker.
It really would be. It would probably be equidistant based on where the driveway is. There is a drive off Maple Road directly, and there's also a drive to that southerly lot I think you're referring to, the one towards the bottom of the screen. Also, there's an access point off of St. Greg's Way as well. So you could get to it either way, but yeah, I would say people parking in that area would probably more likely be leaning toward Maple.
Okay, so I mean, what I'm really getting at is out of the 180 or so parking spots that you're losing, that what you're arguing is necessitating this additional access point, looks to me about at least half of them probably weren't using that Bassett Road entranceway in any event, correct?
We never did a study on it to know for sure. And so it would be difficult to say. I can tell you that one of the reasons we're actually bringing this forward is because it's kind of the number one request, from employees who used to park at St. Greg's asking, geez, do you think we'll ever have the opportunity to access out on Bassett Road? And so we're trying to do that to kind of restore what they already had. Do I know exactly how many went out that way? We never studied that, so I can't answer it definitively.
And you indicated that, for several reasons, you indicated business reasons, the lease was no longer available. Perhaps we have somebody from St. Gregory's to speak to that. I have no idea. But was that, did they raise the rates? What ended up happening? Why isn't this available anymore?
I don't know that we've said that it wasn't available anymore. There was a lease proposal that we did receive, and for a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to get into all the details of those reasons here, but for business reasons, we decided not to renew the lease.
Understood. Okay, I see somebody pointing to a man in a clerical collar. I assume that man may be able to shed some light on this. I'll wait for you. Okay, the traffic study that was done, I don't know if anybody could speak to this as well. You indicated it had, very little effect. The people entering previously through St. Gregory's to those two green parking lots, did they have to go through any sort of gated thing, or are they just driving right in?
They drove right in.
Okay. We would understand that, however, if that was opened up and there was a gate off Bassett Road, it would be a little bit slower to get into that than someplace without a gate, I would assume. Fair?
I assume that would be true. Yeah, I mean, there's no restriction getting in off of Bassett onto St. Greg's Way, so.
I could pull in at 30 miles per hour or 20 miles per hour like I might be able to do off of out in something that's unencumbered like this. Did the traffic study take into account the fact that people are going to have to come, make a full stop, wait for the gate to open, then enter in, and then several other people doing the same thing?
The traffic study does have queuing estimates from typical queuing, and it has room there for vehicles to queue. We would have to update that for the specific timing on the gate selected and that delay. So it does have a queuing estimate, and cars could queue up and back, but it's not specific to the gate selected.
And if I'm understanding you correctly, and I'm trying to be pedantic, but the queuing estimate doesn't take into account the delays by the opening and closing
Right,
of the gate.
we'd have to update that time in the study, yeah.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you. All right. Seems like several people are going to have questions here. Do we have do we have the community spokesperson? Do we have somebody there who's going to come up here? I believe his slides or something. We could have you up here with your name and address, and we'll get started with you.
Yep. My name is Jesse Jarzinka, 144 Bassett Road. I'm going to start my own timer so I don't go.
Pull up your slides.
Okay.
We won't start until your slides are up. I'll give you my kisses. Yeah. That helps. You didn't have to give me anything in return. To be honest with you.
I think we're ready.
Okay, good?
Yep.
We're ready to go? Okay. Go ahead.
We leave it there for now. But good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse Jarzinka. As I said, I've lived on Bassett for almost 13 years with my wife and 4 children. And I'm representing Bassett and the surrounding neighborhood to the north of the hospital. And we want to say, of course, we oppose this application outright. Almost all of us in the neighborhood weren't even aware of this proposal until last week when I noticed the new fence between St. Greg's and the hospital. And in just over a week, we've talked to countless neighbors, collected over 350 signatures online and in person, including original residents who've been here for over 50 years, who remind us this isn't the first time they've attempted to open this gate. I can only imagine the response if we had even more notice. Everyone's extremely passionate about preventing even more traffic in our neighborhood, which has already had many dangerous incidents occur over the years, including cars veering off-road and destroying trees and mailboxes. Actually, I have a video of that from this last July. Rear-ending other cars, and even an incident on Christmas where a car went out of control, flipped upside down, and landed on a neighbor's lawn. not to mention the constant speeding and blowing through the only stop sign by existing cut-through traffic and employees from multiple businesses already on Bassett Road. And this isn't even including the countless accidents at the intersection of Bassett and Hopkins over the years, which the traffic impact study didn't seem to find for some reason. But we have documentation and witness accounts. I have a photo in the slides here. But I first want to spend some time, not yet, please, just the first, thank you. But I would first spend some time looking at the arguments the hospital is making to justify this change and show that they don't actually make logical sense. It seemed clear to me that the chairman was also unconvinced during the proposal to the Traffic Safety Board last month and voted to outright deny the request along with multiple other members. These aren't emotional points, they're simply objective inspection of what was said by the hospital representatives during the Traffic Safety Board proposal. It's my understanding that the 2006 hospital expansion agreement required these conditions, which are being petitioned for relief. Number 5, that the existing chain gate be shown on plans submitted for approval, and access to Bassett Road shall be limited to its current use, which is non-medical emergencies. And point 9, that the approved plan includes the 218, is what it said in the plan, parking spaces leased from St. Greg's. These conditions were put in place originally for a reason. We asked what has changed to allow these to be removed. I'm going to go through the representative's reasoning from the Traffic Safety Board meeting on February 4th. First quote was, "We're basically taking the parking that historically was on leased property off-site. The lease is no longer economically feasible." And they continued to say, "When we leased to St. Greg's, the building was a medical office building, which was fully occupied. The medical building is no longer occupied. It was vacant, as we've heard here tonight as well. So I didn't add spots. These spots were there. They just weren't being utilized by our employees. It was just an empty lot. So all we did was take an empty lot and fill it with our employees." To that we say, if the off-site parking has already been moved to the existing lot behind the now vacant building, and they're not adding spots, which they specified is not imminent, then why would these vehicles be causing any issues? The spots were already there. The parking lot has previously accommodated this traffic when the building was in service and fully occupied, as they previously stated. Which is why I assume the condition was put there in the first place. So it doesn't make sense that the parking is all of a sudden a problem. Next point they gave was, this prevents all traffic from having to exit onto Maple Road, which is obviously the busier of the two roads, end quote. Again, this must have already been the case when the vacant building was occupied, but why is that a bad thing? Maple Road's a 4-lane thoroughfare with a median and a traffic light meant for this traffic, not Bassett, which is a residential street. The exit out of the hospital onto Maple has turning lanes and traffic lights. Bassett has neither and connects to Hopkins, which is already a steady flow of traffic, especially during shift changes. And this reasoning means that the intention is to move some existing traffic to Bassett Road. The next reason given was, quote, "What we want to avoid is people that work or live north of this site being able to exit to the north is certainly a matter of convenience," end quote. Convenience is not an acceptable reason to allow commuter traffic through a residential neighborhood. And the final reason they gave in the Traffic Safety Board proposal last month was, just as important, quote, "Just as importantly as all the other points, anyone who's been to that emergency room, basically we don't want that traffic to have to pass by that area. It's actually very important that we keep that as clear as possible," end quote. And emphasize again, how can this traffic be unexpected if these spaces were already there and previously used? If the lot can't handle the parking spaces already there, then it seems they need off-site parking, which is again probably why it was required in the first place. There's alternatives to allowing traffic onto Bassett, such as adding an ambulance-only entrance or potentially a secondary path for circulating cars on the other side of the hospital, but it's not our responsibility to solve this issue or to bear the results of their workaround. So those were the stated reasons given for removing the conditions put in place in 2006. None of those satisfy the requirement for flowing commuter traffic through a residential neighborhood. But let's talk about the existing traffic on Bassett. The traffic study was based on the false premises Mr. Schmiel was mentioning, that vehicles from St. Greg's parking lot were already using Bassett Road. This is highly unlikely, and the presentation to the Traffic Safety Board, in the same screenshot we saw here tonight, was misleading and disingenuous. Please go to the next slide, finally. So this is a screenshot that we saw earlier as well, and I took it off the meeting from last month. The bottom square has a line draw, which implies all these cars access the area from St. Gregory Court off Maple Road. And the top square has a line drawn, which implies all those cars have one exit or entrance onto St. Gregory Court and go down to Bassett. This is all heavily shaded, making it difficult to see what's underneath, and the slide was quickly skipped, last month at least. I have a more accurate photo that I'd like to show if we can go to the next slide. So this is what that parking lot actually looks like. The most convenient access is actually directly from Maple Road via a driveway, which you can see at arrow 1 down there. And that goes to the parking lot. And there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional access points to the lot from St. Gregory Court. This seems pretty convenient and well thought out. There's plenty of access to funnel cars, and they're all close to Maple Road. There's also access to the northern lot from the southern lot, as you can see in the oval up above there. So everything's connected and has the option to go out to a main road on Maple. There's no reason to go down Bassett. Let's zoom out and take a look at the bigger neighborhood. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is just zoomed out a little bit. So P1 and P2 were the previous parking areas, and the arrows are all the same. So all this parking is adjacent to Maple and Youngs roads, which are large roads meant for carrying traffic east to west and north to south. It's unlikely that employees commuting north would instead go up St. Gregory Court through a 20-mile-per-hour school zone. There's St. Greg's School right there, and is often packed with cars lining up and down the street, dropping off children and school buses as well. Then they go down Bassett, stop at the stop sign at letter A there, and then go out to Hopkins Road, which has no turning lanes or lights and is extremely busy and difficult to turn onto, as admitted by the study. Another quote from the presentation last month was, quote, "I can tell you that the majority of the employees that parked at St. Greg's, they also have requested access to Bassett Road through our request here tonight. They exited out to the north already," which we heard similar stuff tonight. When pressed on that point last month, they clarified, "I mean the folks who want to exit out toward Bassett parked in St. Greg's because they knew they could get out to the north. And so no, I'm not suggesting that all 170 cars all went out toward Bassett. It's probably the vast minority who went out Bassett. Still, a vast majority go out Maple Road." That's a quote last month. So if the vast minority were going out Bassett previously, as stated by the hospital, what relief does the gate offer? Why give access to 175 employees in that case? These would be new trips. And you would be making using Bassett Road more convenient, since it's now more preferable than the hospital's single Maple Road exit, which would be more new trips, unlike what is stated in the traffic study, which claims no new trips. Exiting out at Bassett, on letter X there, which is where the proposed gate would be, or where at least the entrance is, and going right onto Bassett and then onto St. Gregory Court would now be less convenient, because it's now farther away and has to go through the same 20-mile-per-hour school zone with cars lined up each morning and afternoon. Bassett Road will get new traffic. And there's additional flaws in the traffic study. The study contains empirical gaps regarding pedestrian safety and fails to meet the safety standards it acknowledges are already at capacity. First, it only looked at the Bassett and Hopkins/Red Oak intersection, which is letter D there. As mentioned earlier, claims no crashes were reported at this intersection between, it's not the last 3 years anymore, it's February 20th, 2022 and February 20th, 2025. There's at least 2 in the past year alone that I've witnessed and documented. Can we show the next slide? Back one, please. This is from August 2022, which is right inside that window. These photos were taken 8:40 in the morning this is literally that intersection, Bassett Road and Hopkins, where an ambulance slammed into a telephone pole, but somehow wasn't included in the data. I questioned the database they use for this information. The claim of no accidents does not align with the lived experience of the residents at that intersection. Can we go back one slide, please? The study also explicitly states that a southbound left turn lane is warranted at this intersection, letter D, under both existing and 2027 build conditions, so existing. The recommendation to provide no modifications, despite already meeting the safety warrants, is unacceptable, since it's clear there will be new traffic, as I hope I've made the case for. So how can the board approve a project that knowingly fails to meet the safety standards that is already acknowledged as being at capacity, with the justification that it's okay because there haven't been accidents recently when we know they have been. It also doesn't consider the impact of the intersection of Bassett and Kings Trail, which is labeled A there, which will be more likely to be used by people going north because that's where that goes. People will go up, turn right at A, up through the neighborhood behind my street on Bassett, and go out to Klein on B or C. And again, it incorrectly assumes no new trips. So that was all about the traffic study. The proposed entrance directly disrupts a sidewalk, the only sidewalk that runs the length of Bassett Road. Can we go to the next slide, please? One more, thank you. This is the yellow line that runs down Bassett. X is the proposed entrance. This sidewalk is a vital lifeline for pedestrians and cyclists, including elementary students walking to St. Gregory School and Maple East Elementary Schools, caregivers, family, residents, and employees from multiple nursing homes, which are circled right there, and the hospital, employees from the hospital and the nursing homes who rely on ADA-compliant walkways, large community of dog walkers, interscholastic athletes, etc. Study fails to analyze how a high-volume employee entrance secured by a gate that may cause queuing will impact the safety of children, pedestrians, and cyclists crossing this new cut in their only protected path. As a gated authorized entry often causes drivers to focus on their access, the gate arm, or cars ahead, rather than the sidewalk path, creating a high conflict zone at this intersection. And these points haven't even addressed the additional concerns of the neighborhood, including property values decreasing due to increased traffic on the street or the neighborhood, compounding the already large population of aggressive drivers late for work and eager to get home, which conflict with the constant buses from the schools at every level. And nearly all the residents in the affected neighborhood not being notified and having to quickly put together these arguments in the past week. And the effects of opening the floodgate, so to speak, including the hospital eventually asking for even more traffic when they inevitably add parking in the future as stated in the submitted and approved plan. We're asking the planning board to agree that these points put forth by the hospital do not satisfy the requirements to remove the conditions of the 2006 resolution they agreed to, which were put in place to protect this neighborhood. Do not approve the removal of the existing conditions according to the incomplete and cursory claims put together in bad faith. Ask why they are actually asking for this access and what the end result could be. If they're not honoring their existing agreement to have the off-site spots, why should we expect them to honor the limits of this agreement? Please side with the community and the multiple members of the Traffic Safety Board who rejected this proposal last month. Thank you. Actually, I have one more. Do we have my video I sent in it by any chance? I have 45 seconds. It's not in the PowerPoint. It was a separate upload.
While we're waiting for this, if there are other people who want to speak after he's finished, I'd encourage you to get in line.
What the video is just depicts an incident in front of my house from last summer where a car veered off the road, speeding down my street, destroyed my mailbox, and nearly hit the tree, just as an example of the type of stuff we see on our street. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah, if you, and if you, okay, we'll we'll watch the video before we break today after we give everyone a chance to speak. I'd like to see the video myself if it's been submitted. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Roy. I live at 695 Hopkins Road.
Your full name, please.
Roy Belajan.
Thank you.
And so I live at the corner, and there have been so many accidents, I can't even tell you. I mean, when Colitis says that there's been 0 accidents in the past 3 years, it's just a lie, you know. And I have pictures and dates that I also sent it to Jesse, and so I just wanted to make that clear. The other thing too was they were actually leasing 200 a little over 200 parking spaces from St. Greg's, not 180. And that is in the lease agreement that Father Leon has. So there was two things that they didn't, that they were not truthful about. And that also raised the question as to what else they're not truthful about as well. So that's all I had to say. And, safety is a big concern, especially, living at the intersection. Even like getting in and out, like when I pull in, when I back out, it's almost impossible just because the traffic on Hopkins by itself. So that's something that I need you guys to take into consideration. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Young. My wife Mila and I, we bought our house. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. It's 72 Kings Trail in Williamsville. It would be right on A. You turn on A, you see my house. We bought the house in 2004, and we are raising our two children, Noah and Gabriella, there. Like I said, when you turn on to Kings Trail from that stop sign, which was A, my house is directly in front of you. It's like you can hit it. Over the years, our neighborhood has grown into something really special. There's more families now, children, and it's become a place where kids go outside and still play. Like, when we grew up, how we grew up. But even great neighborhoods has to be cautious. In my own home, we have a strict rule. The children are not allowed to play in between the stop signs on Kings Trail and Eastwick, because the cars come directly from Bassett, from the church and from the other facilities. They don't stop. They don't look. So my children have to go around to get across the street. They can't go directly out of my driveway because I'm between the two stop signs. There is no stop sign coming down Kings Trail. So you would turn and you come directly down, directly into my house. We raised concerns about this before and asked them for a stop sign, and they said no. And the reason they gave us is because no one has been hurt, which you have heard different. I am here tonight to tell you significantly, this is going to cause significantly worse traffic on my street, Kings Trail. Opening the gate behind Suburban will bring more traffic down Kings Trail, traffic that does not belong in a residential street like ours. We are just adding a few cars, potentially multiplying the volume several times over. And based on already see today, the cars do not slow down. They come through quickly without regarding the families or the children that live there. They ignore the stop signs that are already there. They just blow right through them. It is not a hypothetical concern. This is a real concern that we're dealing with unsafe conditions, and this proposal existing problems will magnify it. So I'm asking this. If the reason before is no one was hurt, then I ask that the same logic now. No one is hurt yet. So do nothing. Do not introduce the change that will increase the danger on our street that is never designed to handle this kind of traffic. If anything, the change does not make sense, is one that we've asked for, a stop sign. Instead, the proposal does not, it's total opposite. And for one thing, every car, okay, thank you. But every car that comes down that street shines into my house every night.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Hello, I'm Deborah Hutton. I live at 124 Kings Trail with my husband and two sons. My sons are older teenagers, young adults, fairly new drivers. I am very close to the intersection where Kings Trail tees into Bassett. The traffic is constant. It has grown over the years. We've been there for 23 years. And so now with new drivers, it's very trepidatious to back out of the driveway. There are times, particularly after Mass on Sundays, at shift change of the nursing home shifts, possibly the 7 to 7 shift change is at Millard Suburban, where it is very dangerous. We have had Amherst police officers station themselves in front of my house many times to catch the violators of the stop sign. And we don't see them a lot anymore. I'm sure they're busy with other efforts. But it is very dangerous. One of the things I wanted to point out in the gentleman from Kaleida's presentation was if they're already parking back at 1542, those lots behind the hospital, and they're accessing those off of Maple Road, which is an exact direct shot by the ED. It is a separate driveway, though, that is not under that canopy to the ED, the emergency department, so that street is not interrupted. Those employees are already driving back there, then why do we need to have that entrance? It is going to make more traffic, and I also agree that it is unbearable to make a left turn onto Hopkins Road, often in the afternoons, in the early mornings, very, very difficult. And the last point I'd like to make, again, already an abundance of traffic that we are not policing appropriately currently, and it's very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Karen Koya. I'm at 175 Chestnut Hill Lane South. I've been there for 28 years. I was here for the 2006 negotiation that allowed the chain link to go up on the entrance to Bassett. I want to remind everybody that that was to be used in case of construction, paving, things that would impede access off of Maple Road, also in case of a mass casualty event. That's why that chain link was put up there. I would respectfully request that you do make a decision this evening and put this to bed and not have these people have to come back yet again to discuss a proposal from Kaleida that's flawed. The Kaleida representative, he represented that the St. Greg spots were accessed mainly through St. Gregory Court, and others have referenced that. It's simply not the case. The people were entering from Maple Road. There's a driveway that enters in to those parking spots specifically from Maple Road. That's where most of that traffic comes from. So their data is flawed, and very few people are entering in from Bassett Road. I've entered in from Bassett Road when my family is ill or when I had my children at Suburban Hospital. It was a convenience. But the majority of the employees, they're not entering in through St. Gregory Court. They're entering in through Maple Road. And I've watched over 28 years of more people have come down Bassett Road and how much people have complete disregard for our neighborhood. If it was your neighborhood and the people who were leaving their jobs at the nursing home or the hospital completely blew through a stop sign where your children were at play or where you were going to take an access route to get out of your neighborhood, you too would like to reduce the amount of traffic in our neighborhood. And here we are with a request to change how things have been as they were put in place in 2006. Like others have said, what's to stop them from coming back in 2 years or in 5 years and saying, oh, we were just kidding. Now we want it to not have a gate, and now we want more access for more of our employees off of Bassett Road. I would also like to note that there are parking spots that are unutilized. They are not being utilized in the back of their hospital. They should be instructing their employees to take the road by the emergency department and park there and walk into the back door. My dad's in the hospital right now. I parked in almost on Maple Road. If I, as a visitor to the hospital, can walk the distance from Maple Road into the entrance, I think their employees can walk the distance from the parking spaces that are currently available and unused every day into their back door. There's a solution right there. And there we go.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Orson Roth, 157 Bassett Road. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to urge you to reject this proposal of the rear-gated employee entrance on Bassett Road. Bassett Road is not an access road. This is a residential neighborhood street, and more importantly, is a critical pedestrian and cyclist corridor. The sidewalk that this proposal would cut through is the only continuous, safe, ADA-compliant route connecting our neighborhood to elementary schools and multiple nursing homes to Bassett Park. The park is not just a green space. It's a daily destination for walking, running, training, dog walking, farmers markets, and community events. The sidewalk is used every day by children, seniors, people using mobility devices, cyclists, and families. Interrupting it with a gated hospital entrance fundamentally changes the character and safety of this street. It's a new intersection. The hospital employs 1,800 people. While this proposal claims that the rear entrance be limited to 175 or 180 employees, that limitation is not enforceable. The hospital may try to limit access, but the planning decisions that this board makes must be made based on guarantees, not intentions. Once relief of this condition is granted, then infrastructure is built, future expansion of the policy changes are uncontrollable. Even at 175 employees, it represents a significant increase in daily vehicle movements concentrated during early mornings, shift change, and evening hours, exactly when our school children, pedestrians are most active, introducing turning traffic, idling vehicles, queue lines, gate operations directly across the sidewalk. This creates predictable, unsafe conflict points that no signage or paint can eliminate. This proposal also raises serious ADA and equity concerns. Nursing home residents and people with mobility challenges rely on this uninterrupted sidewalk. Forcing them to navigate an intersection for gated vehicle crossings is not a minor inconvenience. It's a loss of safe, independent access. Hospitals are essential institutions and no one here is opposed to healthcare. But commercial traffic belongs on commercial arterial roads, not residential neighborhood streets. The hospital already has primary access points planned and designed for this purpose to handle the flow of commercial traffic with the use of traffic signals, turn lanes, crosswalks, and shoulders. By approving this petition, the planning board is allowing the hospital to forego its previously agreed upon responsibilities, shifting employee traffic into my neighborhood, our neighborhood, simply transfers that risk and burden onto our residents who did not create this demand. Our neighborhood is not a shortcut. The planning board's responsibility is to protect public safety, walkability, and neighborhood integrity, not just accommodate development and convenience. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Noreen McGuire. I live at 55 Bassett Road. We've lived there since 2000, and I've seen over time the increased traffic, as everyone can attest to. I have a daughter with autism who her special needs bus would come and stop, and I would have people rip by when the bus was stopped. Lights are on quite a few times. And the cutting through is just the traffic for 200 people, then to come out of a gate to try and police this would be ridiculous. For 3 shifts would be over 60 cars adding to the traffic on our street. So I'm wondering why we're going through all of this to just talk about employees that don't want to go up to Maple Road and make a left at the signal or a right, but want to cut through our street. But it seems clear to me that this is an expansion design desired by Kaleida for the back to eventually open the whole back and to have permanent access to Bassett Road for patients and people that want to park there, that work there, when there is already adequate parking spaces. I've never been in a line coming out of Millard Suburban in the 20 years that I've lived there and had to take my daughter there. It's always 2 seconds at the light and I can get anywhere that I want. So I'm not really sure why the need to get to Bassett and to lift it and try and enforce or police how many people are using the arm to get out there just seems very odd to me. So I would urge you to keep the restriction in place for all of us at Bassett Road and keep the use and enjoyment for the residents, protect our people that live there and the people in the nursing home that want to walk by there too. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kevin Kung, and I live at 126 Bassett Road. Been there since the early 2000s. I was also here in 2006 for that gated access. Okay? 3 accidents have occurred in front of my house. The rollover accident, the vehicle that was rear-ended next to me, and the vehicle that went up on the sidewalk, took out the tree, took out the mailbox, and almost hit a child that just got off the bus. Police came by and said, we can't do anything. I actually found a part from the car and went and tracked it down. It was the people at the nursing home. I've dealt with the nursing home traffic. I've walked in front of speeders doing 60 miles an hour down my street continually, okay? We have driver's tests on our street now. We have the court that's further down that they park their lawn maintenance trailers down there because they can't get down the court. And we also have the traffic from the school that sits there. Additionally, have any of you driven through the Millard Fillmore suburban parking lot recently? Today, drove through the parking lot. About 12:30 in the afternoon, every space was taken up. A semi-truck was parked on the emergency entrance road because it had nowhere to go. Vehicles were parked in the fire lane with pink pieces of paper on the windshields stating that they could not park there. And people were driving around the lot looking for spaces. The rear building that they talk about that is not going to be used, if you look at your plan, it states it's going to be a women's health clinic. There are active people back there with buckets holding open doors, doing things in that building. It would be an extreme cost for them to tear it down. You know that building is going to be reutilized at some point in the future. Additionally, the basin that sits in the back of that parking lot, that is now where kids go sledding. During the winter, that is where they dump the snow. We already have the issue where Bassett Park was lowered years ago because of the flooding over in Galileo. Where is this snow going to go now? So we have a winter like we had this year, you're losing parking spaces already. The last thing I want to point out is that I've worked from home for 20 plus years. I can tell when the school buses start. I can tell when the taxis for the nursing homes start. I can tell when people start to blow through the stop sign because my neighbors, 2 of them are police officers. They will actually say, I have to get to this street when it's in my district because they know that stop sign is a go point for everybody. The litter that sits outside the hospital from the smokers that sit at the back entrance of the hospital is there. I constantly pick up bottles and cans on my street. The walkers come down daily. And the last part in regard to the people that are from the nursing homes, we have people that come down the street in wheelchairs, literally wheel down the streets, and with walkers, they sit in front of a bench in front of my house. Numerous times I've already basically had to pull into my yard or to another to get off the street because cars have been racing down it. So it's not just the hospital that we have a problem with. It's a traffic problem now. It's a speeding problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Max Poliachik, 96 Bassett Road. Been there for about 7 or 8 years now. Last spring, my boys were waiting for the bus. The bus threw out the stop arm, and a car decided, I'm not gonna stop for it. I'm just gonna speed right on past it. Missed hitting my kids by probably about 5 seconds or so. My wife and I were able to ascertain that it was one of the employees at one of the 3 other healthcare facilities on our street already, one of the 3 Elderwoods. There's already 3 on our street. Now, no judgment about that person. They may have been having a bad day. They may have had some, demons they were thinking about, whatever. They were in a hurry. I'm not going to pretend to know why they chose to do that, right? But you're adding at least 100 other possible occurrences of somebody having a bad day, somebody wanting to get to work, somebody not paying attention because they have personal problems going on. Not to mention the people who just drive like idiots on a normal day, right? There's people who drive like idiots all over the place. We're opening up another can of worms here by potentially putting this gate here. We have so many kids who live on Kings Trail and Bassett Road especially already. Other people have said it better than I can. Maple Road is the proper place to be entering the hospital. Bassett Road is not the proper place to be entering the hospital. It's a residential area. There's families. People do the recreation there, whether it's taking their dogs for walks, going on bike rides, either on the sidewalk or on the side of the road, during the daylight and even sometimes during the dusk hours. Say only 170 employees, but we just keep going down this slippery slope of people, these employees not paying attention, driving 45, 50, 55 miles an hour, swerving, looking at their phones, hitting people's mailboxes because they can't figure out where the curb is. I feel like this is just going in a very dark direction if this goes through. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Pecana, 91 Bassett Road. A few things I have already on the street. We have the road test that sits right at that same entrance area. in addition to the backup of the school, the traffic for the people picking up at St. Greg's, all at that same spot. So if you're going to congest that whole area with road test people waiting to take it and the school traffic and then adding an extra, it's not a good thing. My wife, she works over at Roswell, and so she has to get gated in, and she tells me all the time, routinely, that for some reason the gate doesn't lift when someone has a badge, and everyone's beeping and honking, and the traffic backs up, and people are always speeding, like going around and just braking past like double yellow lines. She tells me, so it's gonna congest up. Another thought, can't Kaleida utilize that outpatient center that they have on Klein Road that they closed and then shuttle them into the hospital instead, since they already have that space? I mean, Kaleida needs a more detailed evaluation of traffic during peak times with that school drop-off, shift changes. You can't add a new entrance like this and not have all that detail. Also, my wife and I were bikers, so we're biking down the street every day when it's nice. People are always biking down the street, walking. My wife and I, we have some close calls because like we'll be coming out of our house and all of a sudden someone's racing down. We're like, oh, did you see them coming? It's just gonna really, it's not good for the people. And every day around 5 p.m., there's always this black truck that comes flying down the street. I don't know. I think that they're leaving the nursing home. I don't know. But I mean, I think that the area should be patrolled a little bit more and take care of the traffic we already do have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert Roche and I live at 22 Bassett. So I'm on the corner of Bassett Road and Hopkins. And I can tell you first of all, I'm a professional risk manager. So I'm going to first just say that like from not in my backyard perspective or a not from not in my backyard perspective, that corner is an absolute menace. We have to say that there's no accidents there is ridiculous. I know we've heard about it before, but what happens is people will either turn left out of there or go straight out of there, and they'll get T-boned. And when they get T-boned, they get T-boned right into my yard. So I can tell you that the frequency of accidents that happen at that corner is at least once every 6 months. It is one of the most dangerous spots that I know of in Amherst. My kids, who are now in their late teens and early 20s, it was a rite of passage that happened after they had their driver's license before they would attempt to make a left-hand turn out of the street that's right at the end of our driveway. So first of all, from just a perspective of safety, adding more traffic into that environment seems foolish. And it would seem like it would be a bad idea for the folks at Kaleida because you're putting your own employees into a more risky spot to begin with. When we talk about the traffic and the shift changes, that's real. What happens is people, it gets close to work time and they fly down that street as fast as they can go because they don't think it's a side street, they won't get caught or whatever, and so they fly. People absolutely blow off the stop signs, both at the corner of Hopkins and at the corner of Kings Trail repeatedly. So from just an overall safety perspective, it seems ridiculous. The second thing that is a not my backyard issue is what also happens is when the shift change happens the opposite way, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions on the Kaleida folks because this is the other healthcare facilities, but I'm guessing that it's going to happen here too, is they come to the stop sign at my corner, and that's where they decide to throw all the crap out of their car that they've had for the day. And so I'm constantly picking up medical gloves. I'm constantly picking up food containers. I'm constantly picking up garbage and trash. I'd love a no littering sign on my street corner, by the way, because of the people that are already there. And if we add this additional traffic, that's only going to get worse. I would also ask, I don't see why you would be in a position where you would need to go back and reconsider this item. So I would ask that you consider this item today, please, and put this to bed. Thank you very much.
I am Father Leon Burnett, 200 St. Gregory Court, the pastor of St. Gregory the Great Parish for 13 years. And I'd like to set the record straight on a few items. First, the Traffic Safety Board meeting of February 4th, it was stated that the church asked for, quote, exorbitantly more rent in the lease. And it was stated that it was probably because of the bankruptcy. The statement about bankruptcy was corrected. And to be clear, St. Gregory's is not in bankruptcy. It is the Diocese of Buffalo that filed bankruptcy. Next, the concern raised by the hospital was the, quote, exorbitantly more increased rent. As a service to our community, and in the interest of being a good neighbor, St. Greg's is offering to simply roll over the lease that expired on December 31st for 4 years with the same terms and conditions with no cost base increase. To be clear, the spaces are available, and I also have a copy of the lease. It is for 200 spots. Next, please know that the hospital is the one that terminated the arrangement, not St. Greg's. On March 20, 2025, the parish emailed Mr. DeBacco to begin discussions about renewing the lease. He responded the same day and a telephone meeting was arranged. On April 11, a copy of the old lease was sent to Mr. DeBacco, along with our proposed changes. Mr. DeBacco replied on May 6th, stating that they were reviewing the proposal and doing analysis. On June 17th, the parish followed up with Mr. DeBacco, replied that they were evaluating their parking needs. We later were notified by the hospital that they no longer needed our parking. There was never a counter proposal made nor any negotiations, just a flat out, we no longer need the parking spaces. We followed up again in November and in January. St. Greg's did not want the lease agreement terminated, especially since it does violate the restrictions placed on Millard Suburban in 2006. Daily from 7 in the morning to about 5 or 7 in the evening, there are 170 cars parked there. I have personally counted them a number of times during the year. During the night, about half of those. As a priest, I am called to the hospital pretty much daily to go and anoint people. I have to drive over there now, and I too cannot find a parking spot. I will circle 5, 10, 15 minutes looking for a place to park. A driveway off Bassett will not resolve the parking problem. Also, the majority of parking spaces used by the hospital at St. Greg's were alongside in front of the church. Those who parked there used Maple Road. I saw it personally because I have Mass at 7 in the morning, and I'm often on our property. Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
That's a hard act to follow. My name's Lisa Hunt. I live at 76 Kingsview Court on the other side of Klein from the hospital, but my father lives at 92 Kings Trail and has lived there since before the hospital was there, before St. Greg's was there. And as development came in, there were constant promises that that access wouldn't be open to Bassett Road, and so it's a little disheartening to know that there's consideration to take that away. I hadn't planned to speak because so many of my neighbors have said absolutely wonderful things, but there's a couple things I'd like to add, including I've worked from home since '91, and traffic is difficult. It is more and more difficult as the nursing homes were added, and it is people circling and making three-point turns in parallel parking since we got the DMV site, and the access that people are going towards when they go down Kings Trail is towards Klein, and not really anybody talked about Klein Road. Klein Road is quite busy. At the end of the day, there's a backup almost to Eastwick to turn onto Hopkins, and going the other way towards Young's. It backs up just about to Oak Ridge, which is the entrance to my neighborhood. The traffic on Young's at that point is much lighter, and so if people were coming from Maple, they wouldn't run into the same problems. The last point I wanted to make was the condition of Hopkins Road. To have people go down Bassett is bad enough, especially if you live in the neighborhood. But to funnel additional traffic onto Hopkins Road, which ends up having to be repaved, you guys can tell me better than I would know, but it should be repaved every year. There's something maybe wrong with the substructure. There's huge potholes. It's a difficult road in the best of weather, let alone icy or difficult weather. I think that the 5-lane road with a signal is the obvious and safe choice to keep people both from making a difficult or dangerous left and to keep people out of a street with residents and kids and having traffic back up with noise and light trespass. So that's me. Should I sign in?
Please.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Jonathan Mosk. I'm from 114 Bassett Road. I have 3 daughters. I've lived there about 5 years. I'd like to thank my community members. Really, in 9 days, we really pulled together. It's been awesome, and I don't want to belay all that feedback. I have a lot of similar things to say, but I'm just going to can a couple items, and this is why I stepped up here. I don't like the sleight of hand you heard during Kalida's speech regarding it's going to be a few people's shift changes. I don't believe that's reality. As you heard numerous times, it's a slippery slope. There's already the center in the back. You heard them, there could be future plans, and we have to come back here. And then, lastly, when they were talking about employee feedback, which I appreciate, what about the feedback of the community? We're homeowners. We have kids. We're taxpayers. This isn't just a job for us. It's our neighborhood, as you heard a lot with child safety, and we can all give anecdotal feedback of people blown by buses pulling over. So I do urge you to consider what's really going on here for the community. If there isn't that many people coming in and out like they like you to believe, why you cannot go out front? We know there's an access point right back there. And then I'll end with what will change in the next 5 years. And we know from the plans and what they put in there, something will change and something will expand. We'll be back here and have even greater impacts on the community. So I thank you for your time, and I do urge you with the others here, let's make a decision tonight. Let's do what's right, and let's put it. Thank you.
My name is Vincenzo Ciccarelli. I live at 151 Bassett Road. I have to say I feel for the younger generation here that has small children. We went through many years ago with practically the same thing. The only thing, everything has been said. One thing I'd like to add, with the St. Gregory being probably the largest parish in Western New York, if not the largest, now we have 2 other parishes joining us. And one of them, St. Pius, is a pretty good size. So the only thing I can say is be careful because the traffic is going to rise exponentially when this is going to go through. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the general public that wants to speak before I turn it back over to the petitioners to respond? Hearing none? Okay. Mr. McCarthy, if you want to come back up here and respond to the various comments.
Yes, thank you again. A few points, just to, as was mentioned several times, part of the impetus for this is the extensive parking issues, the overflow of traffic on the south end of the property, concerns with access, particularly to the emergency department. And encouraging these employees to use that north lot on the north end of the property will improve traffic flow and ease congestion throughout the site, especially being vital for emergency services. I think that's really all we want to add for now. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them if we might.
I did have one other question. I don't know if anybody can answer this or not. The people who are accessing those 2 parking lots, which apparently you're not going to use anymore, who are coming off of Bassett onto St. Gregory, in that way there. You know, I guess what's bothering me is, you know, obviously they can still use Maple Road on this, but never. I'm fine. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Just going to add one thing regarding the accident data, just to clarify. So the accident data in the study did just look at the past 3 years. It was New York State DOT clear crash data view, and that data was between February 28, 2022 and 2025. So that can be, that data research can be expanded to add more data, but that was just specific to the study. So there's other.
I apologize. I lost my train of thought a second ago. What I was curious about is if this was denied, this was not utilized, plus you don't have the parking in those two lots anymore, would we expect traffic that's already been habitually using Bassett to seek other ways to get to the hospital, perhaps go down Hopkins, down Young to get to the front? In other words, is it a possibility that the way things are right now, and if that gate wasn't used, it would actually lessen traffic on Bassett? Do we know if that's the case?
Yeah, for that, we would have to look at the distances and look at logical routing of that. And so that would be more of a micro study. So it could be less, could be more. So that would be more detailed than, but we'd have to look at that logical routing and where trips are currently going and project that out.
In other words, we don't know now, but it's a logical possibility,
It could,
as I stated.
it could, yeah, it could lessen, could be more. So we'd have to kind of do a little micro study of that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask one more.
Go ahead.
Is it fair to say, knowing now the church will not increase their rate, there's no hardship to you in continuing a 4-year lease?
I guess what I would say is, you know, we would have to evaluate this at this point. I can tell you, well, just let me finish. So that was not the proposal that we were given. And so if you think that I can sit here today before this board and before this community and make a decision on that, I can't. Okay. And so obviously if we had that offer to begin with, we might not be here today, but we didn't. And so now we have to kind of relook and reevaluate and see. But at this point, we don't have any plans to renew with St. Greg's. I haven't seen that proposal other than what was verbally said here tonight. So at this point, I have none. There's always a hardship. It's still, of course, it's a hardship. The hardship is still the cost of the lease for 4 years, which is extensive.
Which is what you already had considered when you
But
had the
it
2006 resolution, right?
I don't know what they paid in 2006. Hold on.
Well,
It's a big number over the 4 years even still. And if we want to get into the numbers, I don't have the 06 increase. I can tell you that it costs, I do know that there's an increase in cost. There's a cost to us right now of in excess of, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that we pay to St. Greg's on an annual basis. And again, I did not want to get into the specific details of the lease, as Father Leon didn't. He just said he would roll it over for 4 years as it was. So it is a very expensive lease, even still. And so to the extent that the hospital has the requisite spaces on site, it would prefer to do that. And I'm happy to share that with you offline and give you more detail, but I really don't feel I want to do that in public.
No, and I understand. I'm not asking you to make a split decision either. I just wanted to verify, and Father Leon, if you could wave or nod your head, whatever you want to do, I understood you said you guys were willing to roll over that deal. Is that still on the table today? Absolutely. Thank you. That's all I want to know. Okay. I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify that. Is that all?
Anything further?
Okay. No, that's fine.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we close, it's been requested by several people that we make a decision and come to an end. And my long tenure here, our tradition is to allow, some other issues have come up with them, with their requests that were not able to be answered by us tonight. And if it was a citizen's the neighbors that were asking for it, or the petitioner. Our tradition is to allow people to come back and give us some answers to other questions that were raised. So us making a decision tonight, I don't believe will happen.
I mean,
It certainly could. It certainly could, but I want people to understand that, again, it's important for us to hear from everybody who's here tonight. And we thank you for being here tonight because it shows that you're part of a community that we enjoy living in, all of us. We're up here as volunteers. But if that doesn't go tonight, I just want to make the point, it's because we have a sense of fairness, a tradition of fairness that has allowed that to take place. So, thank you.
I just want to add, we're going to make a decision on whether to continue the hearing, to take a vote on all this after we finish the next issue that has nothing to do with that one, right? We have one more hearing online for that people are waiting to hear from. So we'll get into that, and then we'll resolve everything we need to resolve with that. Let's take a vote.
We'll talk about that during the break, just because we've got to keep the record clear. I think you have to make a decision on the hearing right now. Can't wait till the end.
I'm making a motion to close the hearing after review of the video submitted.
I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Voting to close the hearing. It's not a vote on anything but to close the hearing, the public hearing, so that there's no more public comment, there's no more information to be given. The hearing would then be closed.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
And it's been seconded, so this is not on the merits of the actual petition. It's just whether or not to close the public hearing. We have a proposal, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Passes.
I didn't hear you. Okay. That passes 4-1. That closes the hearing on that. We'll get to the substance of the vote after this. That's fine. All right. Item number 3 on this is the proposed zoning text ordinance regarding battery energy storage systems. Mr. Ulatowski.
Good evening, members of the Planning Board. Daniel Latowski, Assistant Planning Director and Zoning Enforcement Officer. This evening, I'm introducing a proposed amendment to our zoning ordinance to consider allowing a new principal use called battery energy storage systems, or the acronym of BESS. These systems are currently allowed only as accessory uses to solar and wind energy in our community, and we are seeing a increased demand from outside our region, particularly large energy corporations, which are trying to take advantage of enticements from New York State NYSERDA to provide for energy storage. A battery energy storage system is essentially a series of batteries which store excess electrical energy either from the existing electrical grid, solar arrays, or wind turbines. The energy is stored for later use to be utilized by consumers when peak demand requires more output from the electrical grid. Next slide, please. This is just an example of existing types of battery energy storage. What we are not regulating with this ordinance are accessory battery storage systems, such as you might find in your residential home. We're seeing individuals purchasing Tesla battery packs now as auxiliary storage in the event of power outages. And we're seeing commercial industries also providing for accessory commercial battery storage. What this proposal is actually going to regulate is what you see in the right-hand slide, and those are principal utility-grade battery energy storage systems. Next slide, please. The basic components of a battery energy storage system involves a series of battery cells, lithium ion in particular, that's what the industry is using now, a series of battery cells that are stacked together in battery racks within what are essentially storage cabinets. They used to be stored in storage containers, but now they're moving to a storage cabinet because they're more accessible, particularly for emergency responders should the event of a fire occur. In addition to, again, the battery storage units, you have the power conversion systems, which is the inverters, which take your DC power and step it back up and bring it online to the grid, which we all use. Next slide, please. Again, the need for this ordinance amendment, as I indicated earlier, there's an increasing demand to build battery energy storage systems regionally and throughout New York State as the demand for electrical energy is increasing. New York State has identified a statewide energy target storage of 6,000 megawatts by the year 2030. This is a state initiative to increase the resiliency of the current grid within New York State. 450 megawatts are currently deployed in New York State in the form of battery energy storage. 697 megawatts are currently in the pipeline within New York State through NYSERDA and the utilities. And as I indicated previously, New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, or NYSERDA, is providing enticements, is up to $1.6 billion over the next several years to increase the community's need for energy storage. This provision, again, principally regulates principal battery energy storage systems, not the accessory ones. And we wish to do this to get ahead of the curve. As I indicated, we're getting increasing demand, and we wish to regulate these systems because currently we don't have standards for the regulation or siting. They will be before you as major site plans, so you will have the control on approving the location on particular sites through site plan approval. The compounds must be a minimum of 500 feet from any adjacent residential zoning district. We will also require acoustical analysis demonstrating that these facilities will not exceed our town noise ordinance standards. Security fencing and high-impact vegetative screening will also be required to visualize visual impact to public view sheds. I want to point out that recently, as of July of last year, the New York State adopted new fire code regulations specifically for battery energy storage systems through a recommendation of a New York State interagency fire safety working group that the governor put together to particularly look at the potential safety hazards of these systems and find ways to protect public and first responders. The way that we wish to regulate these principal uses is by geography. We wish to limit them solely to our general industrial districts where we allow other more intensive land uses, as well as our research and industrial development districts. The map I'm displaying here indicates the areas that would allow for BESS. The areas in purple, these are our research and development districts. Areas in pink are currently residentially zoned areas. Areas in orange are our general industrial areas, and they're very limited in their location within our community. Next slide, please. Benefits and risks. The largest benefit of the BESS system is that they can increase the resiliency of a community's electrical grid by providing stored energy when the electrical grid cannot keep up with demand during peak usage periods. The introduction of BESS facilities will also cause upgrades to be made to the electrical grid by the developer. Such upgrades benefit the consumer, as a utility company often has deferred such upgrades to the future. The largest risk are fires. We all know the problem with lithium-ion batteries and their overheating and the establishment of fires. Any sites will have to have emergency response plans in place during site plan review, accepted by our fire inspection staff, including the provision for specialized training of the local emergency responders. Those will be conditions of your site plan approval. Next slide. During site plan review, the town will also require environmental and safety assessments for best facilities if they're anywhere near sensitive uses, including schools, hospitals, nursing homes, childcare facilities, assisted living facilities, and they will have to do assessment analysis for pollution dispersion modeling, demonstrating any potential downstream impacts. What we hope to do, as I indicated in our pre-meeting, is introduce this evening. We understand that you do have some concerns and you'll have more questions. So what I'd like to do is ask that you leave this hearing open. As I had offered during our pre-meeting, we will bring in industry experts to provide training for the planning board to further educate you on the safety concerns that generally people have with best facilities, as well as the environmental benefits to our community and what the current enticements are from NYSERDA. So with that said, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have or the audience may have. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Any questions, John?
No questions, thank you.
Brittany, any questions?
Obviously, in the workshop, there's a large concern that I personally have on accessibility and firefighting efforts that would be necessary on these types of battery centers. So agreed that we don't have the report yet from fire on your proposals?
Correct. We're still working with fire. They have been part of our working group, but we don't have a written recommendation. As I indicated in our pre-meeting, the town attorney has redlined a draft and has some minor edits, but we do want to fully educate the planning board on what BESS is, and I can't provide you with that technical expertise, and I'd rather have someone from the industry to show you and help you learn more about BESS.
Appreciate that. We have one of the best planning departments. Thank you.
Harb, any questions?
Yes, could you please move to the previous slide? I moved through, I couldn't get a chance to read all of it. The final point is that fire risks are commonly associated. Sites will be required to have emergency response.
So that's a current requirement of the new fire code. They have to prepare an emergency response plan. In addition, the industry has to provide a technical expert on staff in the event of an emergency, and they have to be there on staff within 4 hours to provide technical assistance to the emergency responders.
So we don't know at this time if this will require any fire suppression at site.
To my knowledge, and again, I have very little expertise in the technical aspects, that they do not currently use suppression systems. They have systems that shut down the components of the racks so that they can't continue with the thermal run. So if one battery series starts to overheat, it shuts it down, but apparently there are methods to contain the area of fire so that you don't have thermal run and spreading onto the rest of the system. But I would prefer that the electrical engineers that have explained this to us show you how it works and what safeguards there are with the new technology. Some of the older technology was alarming, and the way in which they stored the battery racks was alarming. They were using typical storage containers without explosion-proof doors. The new facilities that are using equipment-grade cabinetry that is open and accessible does not present as big of a risk as the old technology.
You mentioned these are most likely going to be lithium batteries, and on which traditional suppressants don't work. And so that is the reason I brought this up. So I think that this needs to be further evaluated, where it takes us.
Yeah, I want everyone on the planning board to fully understand the risk associated with these, and that's why we're doing it in an incremental fashion by limiting its geography only to those areas where we currently allow heavy industry. And as I indicated during our pre-meeting, these are going to be located where substations are or in proximity to substations. So they're going to be, they're not going to be everywhere. They're going to have to be located depending on where the grid infrastructure is.
Thank you.
Mike, any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, not at this time.
Thank you. I have no questions. We're going to open it up to the public to see if they have any comments or questions. Sir, you obviously have one.
My name is Kevin Kump, 126 Bassett Road. I work in this industry. I've got over 20 years of industrial cybersecurity and actually just gave a lecture on this in Houston a couple months ago. These battery energy storage systems are coming into the advent because the long transmission distribution lines that the energy companies have don't have the capacity to take the energy through them. So these are now called microgrids. You're going to see them with the mini nuclear reactors and things like that that they're trying to put out. And what this does is this balances out the grid. So when Niagara Falls produces power, you've heard of brownouts, sags, lags, blackouts, things like that. These are used to augment that technology. It's sort of like you have a battery at home that you charge for your drill. You take it from your electric, you put it on your drill, you can now use that. That basically is what these are trying to do for the grid. The fires are a very real thing, but the technology is actually getting better. And actually just in the last day or so, UL 9540A was put out. And what he's talking about here is the thermal runway where these batteries start to catch fire. You've seen this with the Tesla automobiles with the lithium ion type where the thermal expansion gets so quick that they have to have special apparatus to inject into the batteries. There's other batteries out there like V-flows out there, which are different types of components to them. So there's a whole myriad of batteries that I'm not going to get into. But this is where NERC and other areas of the government are now going to come into this because the generation of power with shutting down of substations like we had with Huntley and others now need an area to store this battery power. So it's wind, it's hydro, it's solar, it's even kinetic off the rails where trains that are going like your cars where they can spin and make that energy useful again. They can now harness that energy in these battery systems. One last point, these are in data centers. And so these are what are causing that fluctuation out there of where the grid is and they're saying we're running out of power. You are going to see these out here. So as you look around Western New York and you have other data centers, these are also going to need that technology. It's basically a storage system. It can be controlled. To his point, the first systems were horrible. There was fires out in California, but they also just did a test burn with one system that did not burn for X number of hours. So don't just close it down thinking that this is going to be a fire. There are UL guidelines coming out and others with NERC-CIP, NYSERDA, and others from the energy sector that will help with this. And I encourage you to reach out to them and use them.
Thank you. Thank you. Very much appreciated.
I make a motion to adjourn and hold open the hearing until next month.
Just want to make sure there's no, is there anybody up before we make a decision? Is there anybody else who wants to speak out or have any questions for Mr. Ulatowski regarding this particular issue?
I just want to thank Mr. Kumpf. It's great that we have people who are expertise in our community, and that's what makes our community great. We appreciate your information, Mr. Kumpf.
Okay, I'll close down the hearing.
I second.
Well, I'm sorry, we're going to
second motion.
I make
No,
a
no, no.
motion to
We
adjourn.
got a motion.
and
Hold it
the
open.
hearing until next month.
You're right.
I need a second.
I second.
You seconds it. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Oh,
Yes.
Okay. We will, yeah, I wanted to take a break anyways on this. We'll keep this open. We'll bring this back again. We're going to take a couple seconds here, minutes before we get into the votes. John. Oh, no, John's right there. All right, we got a couple votes here. Let's get started. Bring back. Okay. Starting on, well, let's go back here. Item number 1, which is 3230 Willisport Highway, proposed on these garden apartments. We have up on the screen right now a list of 10 conditions. Is there anybody here on the board that has any questions or want to discuss any of these proposed conditions?
No.
No.
Is there anybody from the general public that wants any of the conditions read out loud? Hearing none, do I have a proposal?
We have a seeker determination first, Mr. Chairman.
Seeker first?
Move on to seeker.
That's it. Okay, we got.
A motion issue negative deck, I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Shamil?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Hogan?
Yes.
O'Rourke?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes.
Seeker passes 5-0, negative declaration. Okay, sorry about that. Again, we've seen the conditions up there. Is there a proposal on the plan with regard to the conditions as they are stated up on the screen?
I'd make a motion to approve with stated conditions.
Motion to approve with conditions. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
John seconds it. Roll call, please.
Shamil?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Hogan?
Yes.
O'Rourke?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 2.
On item number 2, Chairman, I'd make a motion to adjourn this decision first on seeker and on the resulting resolution. Based upon everything that we heard here this evening, I think it would be most prudent for this board to review, the hearing is closed, but to review the traffic study that was submitted with the application. So with that, I'm just asking, or I'm making a motion to adjourn that decision on both of number 2.
Okay, and just so we're clear for everybody here, that doesn't mean, that means we're not coming back and having people submit further evidence or further testimony or anything like that. Decision will be made next time. That's what you're looking for.
I am. I'm looking to
You're
adjourn
looking
it.
for more time to review the things that are already in play.
Correct. I think for us to make a careful determination relative, most importantly, to seeker here, we need to adjourn this to properly inform ourselves.
Okay. We have heard Ms. Penberthy's proposal. Is there a second?
Second.
Mike seconds it. Roll call, please. Yes.
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 Okay. The proposal to postpone the decision into the next hearing, to the next planning board, right? It's approved 5-0, but the hearing is still closed as far as testimony and materials are concerned.
Agree, we have already adjourned.
We've already adjourned. That's correct. Do I hear a motion to,
I make a
Close the
motion to
hearing.
post this evening till
Two
next month.
Second.
Mike seconds it. Roll call, please. Yes.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.